Al Jazeera Podcasts.
I know it's small stuff, but when you don't have money to buy food, you're starting to be nervous.
That's Maya Zamir. She's been a children's entertainer for 25 years, and she's based in Tel Aviv. Before October 7th, she says her business calendar was fully booked. That's no longer the case.
We came from 100% work to 0%.
Maya's not alone. Israel's war on Gaza is firing back on its own economy.
Many analysts expect the economic impact will be unlike anything that Israel has experienced in decades.
A recent poll shows that 45% of Israelis fear economic hardship due to the conflict.
Tourism is down. Businesses are empty. And some companies that remain open have had to contend with labor shortages as their employees were sent to fight in Gaza.
The war is prompting the largest call-up of military reserves in Israel's history. 300,000 people called into duty.
So how long can Israel's economy hold up as its war continues in Gaza? I'm Malika Bilal, and this is The Take.
My name is Nimrod Flaschenberg. I'm an Israeli activist based in Berlin. I used to work as a parliamentary advisor for the Hadash fraction in the Israeli Knesset. Now I study history and sometimes I write about what is happening in Israel-Palestine.
So, Nimrod, it's been more than 100 days since the Hamas attacks of October 7th and Israel's war in Gaza, and every statistic related to it is staggering. More than 25,000 people killed in Gaza. The death toll in Israel stands at more than 1,000. We know that nothing can compare to the human toll. But aside from the daily horrors of enduring war, waging war is expensive. And the financial cost has risen to almost $60 billion for Israel. Government spending is soaring to pay for it. Businesses are struggling. What does that actually look like on the ground in Israel right now?
Yeah, so the situation is harsh. I think that what is happening, first there is just the basic fact of 350,000 reservists that were recruited after the 7th of October. Many of them since returned home, but many are still in the front. And that accounts to about 7% of the Israeli workforce. At the same time, the state needs to pay not only for the war expenses, but also for these reservists for the days they miss in work. So that alone is just a huge cost at the heart of the economic problems Israel is facing. But there are other aspects that are just as significant.
So we know that this isn't Israel's first war in Gaza. I wonder what is different this time around, because military spending has been known to be among the highest in the world for Israel. And we are seeing headline after headline of a slowing economy, with it costing about $269 million a day to run this war for Israel.
The war in Gaza has shaken up the Israeli government's finances, requiring revised budgets and billions more dollars.
Financial modeling figures are forecasting a devastating loss to the Israel economy.
U.S. ratings agency Moody's has put Israel's A1 credit rating on review for downgrade, citing the ongoing war with Hamas.
What's changed? What is different this time?
The scale is just completely different. There are several aspects. First, there is the fact that about 120,000 Israelis are displaced from the regions around Gaza and also from the north. They need to be taken care of. The government is not doing a very good job at it, but still, it costs a lot. Beyond that, I think that just the scale of the massive attack and bombardment that Gaza is facing and the scale of the invasion is just uncomparable to anything we've seen before in Gaza. These are complete regiments or even corps that are entering the Gaza Strip, and these are numbers that only in the wars of the 70s and 80s did we see such mobilizations of the Israeli army and reserves. So I think the scale is just completely different. And the human toll on the Gazan side obviously reflects that. Right now, the Israeli government, the Israeli prime minister, the Israeli minister of defense are going on TV and saying this war will continue and continue and continue. And they're talking about months or even years. Some have talked about a decade. With this sort of mobilization, I don't see how the Israeli economy could be anything beyond a war economy.
I know that you are studying and living in Germany right now, but for your friends and family who are in Israel, do they tell you that they can actually feel this?
I think that what people are still feeling is the fact that we are at war. The social support for this war is very large. It is starting to crack around the edges, especially because it is clear that the government is not doing enough to release the hostages or to bring about a peaceful resolution, and that Netanyahu's political interest is to prolong the war. But so the economic problems, they're not at the center of the conversation, nor is what is happening in Gaza for the Gazans, but just this notion of winning, which is very unclear to anybody who looks at it in sobered eyes.
Tell me more about that, because I wonder if it's a cognitive dissonance, like victory, but at what cost? What costs in human toll and what costs financially? Are those questions that are pondered in Israeli society right now?
The right-wing government, and especially the extremists, Ben Gvir and Smotrich, also Netanyahu, I think their plan is to actually pawn the future of Israeli society and economy to this grand plan of reconquering Gaza. And I think most of the Israeli public does not want to reconquer Gaza. They want to win, because that's what they were promised. They want Hamas out of government in Gaza because that's what they were promised. They want the hostages to be released. But I don't think they want to live in a permanent war. And this is what the current leadership is offering. And because of the political conjuncture in which Netanyahu is, if the war continues, he will remain in power. I don't see exactly how we're going to bring this war to an end.
I want to delve a little deeper about other workers' absences that were also felt in Israel. Some 160,000 Palestinian workers used to cross over into Israel from the West Bank every day, and the vast majority of them were construction workers. They've been banned from entering. We also know that thousands of workers used to cross from Gaza before they were deported following the events of October 7th. How does that impact Israel's economy?
Israel is preventing Palestinian workers from entering, and they are the backbone of the Israeli construction industry. The statistics that I've seen show that the construction sector is losing 2.4 billion shekels every month because of the lack of Palestinian laborers.
That's $648 million US. And those workers can make a lot more in Tel Aviv than they can in the occupied West Bank. Palestinian construction worker Sadeh Najir told Al Jazeera in December that he made nearly double working within Israel.
When it opens again, I will wait a couple of weeks to check the situation before I return. The work is better there. You get paid directly and on time, even though there's racism and I'm afraid of violence against me.
The people who are actually rooting for or supporting the readmission of these workers into Israel are the security chiefs, because they know that if the Palestinians who regularly work inside Israel will not be allowed in, the rates of poverty and the problems, the social problems in the West Bank are going to become so tough that there is going to be an uprising in the West Bank. So, you know, it is an economic matter, and Israel relies and has always relied on cheap Palestinian labor as a source of its booming economy. Jewish labor was never really used for the construction of the Zionist project, but many Palestinian laborers. But In this case, it's not only an economic matter, but a political matter that could erupt and explode at any moment.
After the break, how long can Israel's economy withstand the war on Gaza? So, Nimrod, paint a picture for us of what happened last week when Benjamin Netanyahu's cabinet approved this budget that we've been talking about, a 2024 budget that includes an additional $15 billion for the war, because they approved it on January 15th, but only after some really tense deliberations and an all-night meeting that had at least one minister storming out of the room in anger at proposed funding cuts. So what was on the table to get cut, and how did that play out in the end?
Yes, so the funny thing is that this nightly discussion and drama is only the first step out of many, because this is the government approval, but then it goes to the Knesset. The Israeli Ministry of Finance is a very dogmatic neoliberal Ministry of Finance. Their only objective is to keep the debt to GDP ratio at a manageable level. So they want to propose cuts and austerity. And that's what they did. They proposed a huge cut to all government ministries to pay for the cost of the war and also to pay for future costs of security. You know, in the best case scenario in which there's some kind of political settlement, or in the worst case scenario in which this war goes on for years, in any case, the Israeli security spending is going to go up. And the way they're going to pay for it, according to the finance ministry, is to cut social services. And this is only the beginning. So we're going to face austerity that is based on a war economy.
In the end, the budget still included money for the ongoing construction of Israeli settlements in Palestinian territories, which is illegal under international law, but they continue to expand. Is that ever going to be something that's on the table when it comes to finding things to cut?
I think it could, but not in this government. That's the thing. As long as this government is in power, money is going to be taken from, underprivileged communities within Israel and be given to the settlements, to ultra-right-wing fundamentalists, and so on. This government has a clear agenda of investing in the messianic dreams of the Israeli extreme right. And as long as this government is going to stay in power, it doesn't matter what they say. They're going to keep on funding settlements. They're going to keep on funding the occupation because that's their project.
Finally, Nimrod, Israel gets financial and military support from the West. We know this, particularly the U.S.
President Biden speaking with Prime Minister Netanyahu again, telling him a carrier strike group is on the way, as well as weapons, ammunition, and fighter jets. But there is
that does not look like it's going to change anytime soon. So with the war in Gaza and the military backing of Israel not showing signs of stopping, we know Israel's economy will not be allowed to fail. But how long can it hold up in its current state?
I think that there is a way of conducting a war while still having an operating economy. But I want to go back before the 7th of October. What we saw with this government the past year is the collapse of this vision of Israel that could be this high-tech nation while maintaining a fundamentalist leadership and an ongoing and continuous occupation. And I think that this model is not going to hold up, whether the war continues or not. And Israel needs to make a choice. Is it going to invest in public infrastructure and divest from the occupation? Is it going to become a more equal society that strives for better life for all of its citizens and its neighbors? Or does it continue with this path of war, arms exports, and cybersecurity? I think that this choice could be affected by the influence of the support of the West.
And that's The Take. This episode was produced by Sarí el-Khalili, Ashish Malhotra, and Negin Owliaei, with Chloe Cayley, Miranda Lynn, Khalid Sultan, David Enders, Amy Walters, Sonia Abou-Gad, Zaina Badr, Fahrinisa Campana, and me, Malika Bilal. Alex Roldan is our sound designer. Joe Plourde mixed this episode. Alexandra Locke is The Take's executive producer, and Ney Alvarez is Al Jazeera's head of audio. We'll be back.